What do we got here today? Well, this is the Victrola the 16th. 1913 in this case, this particular machine style. I mean, there are a lot of Victrola the 16ths, different variations of them from the first VTL. This was the first Victrola. The 16 was the first Victrola. You know, the VTLA, which means Victrola. 1906 ran to 21. All different styles of it. They had the L-door versions, the early pulley cabinet versions. This version, which is in red mahogany, ran, I believe it was 1912 to 1914. This one is 1913. 1913 was the highest production. It made like 21,000 of these in 1913 alone. The highest production year the model ever saw. In today's money, these things would be like $6,000 in today's money. They were $200 in the day. And like I said, in today's money, with inflation and everything else, it's $6,000. A little bit below, lower than that, maybe a little bit higher. I'm not really sure. Now, this particular machine is not a really great example of it. Anybody who knows the 16 and its various styles can see right away that something is seriously wrong. This was, again, a single-family machine, so I'm told. This came out of Florida. A friend of mine lives down there. He hits a lot of flea markets. He made a contact down there, and it led to a house somewhere where a family had this. Been in the family a very long time, maybe since new, who knows. And it's been refurbished numerous times. Right off the bat, you can see this has definitely been refinished. It's covered. It might be shellac, might be poly, doesn't really matter. They got rid of the red look of the veneer that's on there, the mahogany veneer. And they had done things like put these wild, big, gaudy-looking handles on all the doors. I've since replaced them with the simpler ones so that I'm not banging into them all the time. The correct ones are back on there again. The cabinet has been severely altered. As you can see right here on either side of the doors, there should be ornate carvings there, like you see on the Silvertone that was in the last videos. You know, flared out and all of that. All of that is gone. It has all been sanded away. When they did the refinish, for whatever reason, they got rid of it. And down here on the bottom, we have lost a leg. Leg is missing. It's broken. I think they may have slightly altered the other three, and they definitely got rid of the wheels that were on there. Real shame that. In essence, this is now what you would consider a parts machine. However, being a Victrola, and the fact that it does have its horn, crank, motor, tone arm, reproducer, this can still be made to play just fine. None of the things done to it would affect how it plays. It has a triple spring motor, which I'll show you in a moment. And this version, of course, has the slats in the horn. The early VTLAs didn't have that. It was just a wide open horn opening. And there was nothing there, none of this. This is an isolated horn in there. So it's not, you know, the baffle style horn in there. That much is normal. Very large cabinet. Very large cabinet. And quite a lot of room in there, too, for record storage. However, I'm using it for another kind of storage. There are actually two other Victrolas hidden away in there. One of which is a Victrola 4 and a Victrola VV35 portable down there. And if you see that plastic little handle down there, that's what was on the doors. One of them. There were four of them, but definitely not appropriate. Now, the inside of the machine, they did not refinish. You can still see the original, you know, red mahogany in there. There's some holes drilled in the floor there. I'm not really sure why. You see, on both sides, they must have had some kind of a rack or something mounted in there at one time. Maybe they had a speaker in there. I don't know. But everything that makes this a Victrola is still there. It still has the horn and all of that. And I definitely will make this play. Huge. This has the biggest, well, obviously being the biggest of the Victrolas of this era, it has the largest amount of storage capacity in there. And comes in handy, for nothing else. You know, this has really no collector value anymore because of what's been done to it. But if somebody wanted to play records, just, you know, have something to play records on and didn't care that they had been altered, this would be an excellent candidate for that. There's Obviously, the reason I have it, because he did send me pictures of this before I okayed him buying it, was because the price was, let's say, extremely reasonable. Extremely reasonable. And there was something that I noticed right away that made it all worthwhile, made buying the entire machine worthwhile, was the fact the reproducer was still on it. And I'll get this open for you. And a gold exhibition reproducer was still on it. Now, gold exhibitions are not as common, for some strange reason, on eBay as the gold number 2s are when they come along. And you don't see as many of them. Almost all of them are nickel plated. The only time you only saw gold furniture like this on the highest end Victrolas. Obviously, the 16 being top of the line, of the Victrola line, is the highest end. And they're getting quite a bit of money for these. More than $100 I've seen these things selling for without even being rebuilt, which is ridiculous. But people are apparently paying it. Now, you can see, I can see, I'm not sure if it's going to show up on the camera, but the needle bar's bent, twisted over a little bit. Can I show it? No. Which is nothing. They're all bent. I have to straighten every single one of them when I rebuild one of these. I don't know why, but just being dropped 1,000 times on a record, I guess we'll do it over time. This was solidly locked onto the tone arm. The back gasket was completely petrified. All that survived taking it off was the brass insert. That was it. It has the upgrade for... Actually, this probably wasn't an upgrade. It probably came this way. The triangular opening in the needle bar for the fiber needles. But this will be a nice addition to my collection. I have one other gold exhibition that I'm currently working on because it has a snapped off screw. But working on that one. But this will be a nice addition. I'll rebuild this. I'll use it to play the machine, or a exhibition to play this machine when I'm done with the motor. But that made it worth buying. Just that. Then you also have the crank, the motor, you know, and all the other little parts that are on there, even a needle container. Spent needle container, I should say. Well, let's take a look under the lid. Lid's not in horrible shape. You know, it's got scratches and little dings. I don't think it was sanded overly much. The veneer hasn't peeled off it. So that's a usable part too. Let's look around behind it because there is something missing back here. Yeah, there's supposed to be a panel right there. Now, without the panel, you can see right in there to the horn. That's the horn, right here. Cast iron, heavy. I have the machine on a dolly, so I can wheel it around without the wheels, and it's a little bit higher, standing a little bit higher because of that. You can see the graphics in there that were left by the manufacturer in 1913. Assembly marks and all of that. But it's not in bad shape up here. They didn't remove it, and there's no carvings to remove on the lid, so. Still has the lid stay in place. The hinge is still in good shape. You can see the needle band. Here's the gold-plated tone arm. It's a little loose and improperly adjusted for the auto brake, which was new this year. But it's there. I put the camera down for a second so I can lift off the turntable. And get that out of the way. It's kind of a two-handed job. Okay. Right off, you see it's missing the needle. They had a simple pointer needle here. I tell you when you're at 78. That's probably parts I have. This is your speed control right here. Obviously, completely out of adjustment. And that's the auto brake. Not auto brake. Auto stop. It's not an auto brake. You set this manually. I've shown this before on another 1913 machine, which was at that time, it was a Victrola to 9, the 9th. You set this to each individual record's length. Everyone is different, and it triggers it to go off. That's all it does. Let me see if I can get it to work. See, I don't think that's going to work, but oh, maybe it will. No, it's not working. The spring is too weak. Well, don't worry about that. But it does work. These systems do work. A little primitive. Let's swing up the heavy motorboard. And here we have a typical 1913 style, earlier style, not an improved motor. That would come later. They had another one that instead of having 3 spring barrels, had 1 spring barrel that held 2 springs, then an individual spring barrel for the third. And eventually they went to the 4 spring models. Not in this machine, but it went to the 4 spring models that had 2 cans, 2 barrels, each with 2 springs each. Very easy to work on these especially in their individual cans. What you see here, though, sometimes messes people up. The lids do not have a spring on them because this is 1913. They're press fit on there. But they come off real easy. They're not difficult to work with at all. You know, these things do come apart. And because if you're not familiar with doing springs, having one spring per barrel is usually a good place to start, rather than going for the 2 springs in one barrel, which might be a little bit more difficult, at least getting the second spring out and in, unless you're experienced with it. Other than that, it's your typical Victrola motor, nothing different here. All of these motors are essentially the same. Only thing that really differs on them is the number of springs. And the motor body keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger to accommodate the extra springs as the machines grew larger. But really, they're all designed pretty much the same. Whether it be a little 4 or a big 16 like this, or the 9 or the 8 or whatever, all pretty much the same. Once you've mastered one of them, you've pretty much mastered all of them because, in their eras, obviously the motors do change over time. Designs get improved, things get modified a little bit, styles change. But essentially, this particular style is your typical Victrola motor. Not a whole lot different. By 1921, you have the, 1917, you have the single spring barrels and all of that stuff. But really, and one thing to remember about these springs, though. In these years, this does have the spring with 2 pear-shaped openings on either end that hook into little rivets inside the barrel and on the arbor. It is possible to install these springs backwards inside the barrel. So always make a note of the spring's rotation before you take it out. Better yet, this is the 21st century, whip out your camera, take a picture so that you can refer to it later and you'll know for sure which direction that spring turns. Gears don't look too horrible in this. It's a good motor. That motor is $65, $75, maybe $85 on eBay rebuilt, plus probably $80 in shipping because it, like I said before, it's a little bit heavy. It's cast iron. That's not aluminum, that's cast iron. So you'll see them on there for sale every now and then because machines like this turn up, and because they are so heavily modified, they don't have the collector value of a really nicely preserved original machine. No one's going to pay you $300, $400, $500 for this, not even close. You're going to end up using it for parts or just making a simple player out of it. Say you've got thousands of records all the time, you just want a machine that you can play all these records on and not worry if it gets a little scratch here or there or whatever. You can use something like this for that. It's always a nice decal on it. Look at the inside of the lid. That's what it originally looked like in 1913. That's what it originally would have been. And this machine's seen some damage over the years. We have an unusual crack there. I'm not sure how that happened without damaging the rest of the machine, but maybe that's when the leg got broken. Maybe it fell off or something. Who knows? But to totally remove its carvings, that's something I don't think I've ever actually run into before. It's a shame, because this machine was not having issues with its veneers at all that I can see, not even on the doors. We usually see it first. All the veneers were good on all sides. And it's really a shame that this had to happen. It's actually not the only parts machine that he's found for me. There's another 16 he has that suffered the opposite of this. It went through some serious dampness issues, and it is all warped and peeled and bug-eaten. I don't have that one here yet. You'll see that one in a year, whenever he brings it up. But that too will be a parts machine. These are not rare machines. Unless they're VTLAs, the originals, the ones from the aughts and all of that, the 08, 09 or whatever. Those are rare. The Eldors, which are often I'm not really sure why they're so popular, but they are. Those are a little bit on the rare side. But this models after, 1912, they're a little bit more common. Like I said, 1913, 21,000 made. There's lots of them around. As expensive as they were, there's still a lot of them around. You can get a really nice one. I see them on eBay all the time. I see them turn up, on Craigslist or whatever. Not for huge money. A really nice one, probably gonna set you back $500, $600. One that needs, some TLC is going to be in the $250 to $450 range. So they're out there, but you have to remember though, these things do take up a lot of real estate. This is a big machine. Look at it in comparison to that Silvertone over there. The Silvertone is roughly the same size as a Victrola 12. Sorry, a Victrola 11. I keep getting that confused. This thing towers over it. It's huge. Takes up a lot of space. And yet for all of that, the horn really isn't that big. You can see how much extra room there is in that case. I'll show it to you from the back. Again, there's probably a little more light in now, you can see. The horn's really not that big. Look how much more extra room is in there. They could have made a horn bigger, but they didn't. I really don't think it's all that much bigger than a Victrola 9. So you're not getting much more than a larger piece of furniture, really. It's slightly bigger, but not enough to justify, $6,000 or whatever. To me, anyway, I would have gone for the 9 or the 11. And when most people did, the 11 was the Victor Company's best seller of all time. I forget, 600 some odd thousand they made. The 9 was like number 2, I think, or maybe it was a 6. I'm not sure. Again, hundreds and hundreds of thousands made. But if you wanted to make a statement and, you were somebody of means, you bought something like this. You say you had a large and impressive home and you wanted something to match the decor and the style. This would be what you went for. With its gold-plated fixtures and powerful motor and all of that. Often wondered if I could fit that motor in a 9. I bet I could. I'm not going to try it because that would mean modifying a machine. And I really don't have a 9 that's crappy enough right now to modify it. But I'll bet that would fit in there, though. It might even fit with the whole motor board. Because the motor board itself looks very similar to the other machines. And it's got, being a 13, it still has a female crank, which I don't actually have with me at the moment. I forgot to bring it with me. That's all right, we'll get it. I'm not running the motor right now anyway. It needs all the usual cleaning and greasing, because it doesn't look like it's been done since 1913. Pretty typical. You see more decals down inside the case. Number 419. I don't know if that means this was the 419th machine made in 1913. Who knows? Who knows? And I'll put this down and I will show. Let's not get my finger stuck in there. That would be unpleasant. And I can't actually see that, so I'm afraid we're going to have to get a flashlight on that. Because these early plates are sometimes hard to read. Okay, the XVI, obviously. Let's see. Got to get really close to it. 95,208 with a G suffix. 95,208 with a G suffix. And that is the gold-plated tag you will find on the 16s. Gold-plated, what do you call a hinge there and all the rest. Victor was very proud of this machine. And for some reason, somebody's carved something on here. I don't know what that means exactly. Let me see if I can get close enough you can see it. MC? Where is it? MC. AMC. American Motors Corporation? I don't know. Or IMC maybe? Somebody's initials who... I don't know who would do that. Possibly the person who refurbished the rest of the machine. Don't really know. Not that it matters now, I guess. The damage has most certainly been done. But I'm still going to play with it. And we're going to hear it play once I have the motor all dolled up. And then it will go into the parts pile. Unless somebody actually comes to me and says, I need this machine to play records. Will you sell it to me? Sure. I won't sell it to you with the gold-plated reproducer on it unless you kick it a whole lot of money for that. But, yeah, I would sell this. Yeah. Not like I need it. But in the meantime, this is what a 16 looks like when it's from 1913. We'll just imagine the carvings that are here. Okay? Just imagine there's some ornate carvings on either side of it. And then it's got all its legs and its wheels down there. And it's more red. Then that's the 16. Alrighty. Oh, and by the way, Happy New Year, everybody. It's New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, 1921, 22. Yeah, I wish. No, 2021 to 2022. All right.